I'm going to go ahead and just tee this thing up. I think what makes the most sense is we go straight into the meat and potatoes of it to what I think we all agree is our biggest need on the team. Maybe not our biggest need at 11, but our biggest need at linebacker. And I think, Mark, I think you had it.
Thank you, Mr.
Talk linebackers.
Yep.
I can do that. So
Since you've been ready for a week.
Well, no, I actually went through tonight and looked at everything again. And I think I have to do context stuff first with linebacker. I don't think, and I suspect the team doesn't think, that there is a linebacker in this year's draft that you'd take at 11. There's no Micah Parsons that would be a no-brainer. That's one. Two, we drafted linebacker at, 18 last year? I forget where we took Jamin Davis, whose name I can never say.
18, right there in that range, yeah.
Hey, Mark, can I just make one comment?
Bring it.
A lot of people are talking about Kyle Hamilton playing linebacker. So that might be the only exception.
I figured that would come up tonight. I wouldn't be a big fan of that. The whole idea of drafting guys and fitting them in somewhere as opposed to at their natural positions, I've never been a fan of that. But so to me, if we end up taking a linebacker in the first round, it won't be at 11. It'll be because we trade down. Somebody makes us an offer and we trade into the 20s somewhere. And the two guys who are sort of consensus first rounders are Nakobe Dean out of Georgia and Devin Lloyd out of Utah. Depending on which analysis you're looking at, they sort of flip 1 and 2. I've got them very strongly Lloyd 1 and Dean 2 for one very, very clear reason. Nakobe Dean is 5'11", 230. Maybe he'll be 5'11", 240, 245 after an NFL, program for a couple of years. I don't think that's big enough to be a stud linebacker in the NFL. Maybe there are exceptions to that rule, but that just scares the heck out of me. I don't see him. When I looked at Dean on tape, I see a guy roaming free behind the line, behind a massive Georgia defensive line. He's never taken on active 320-pound guards who can run 4.8s and are chasing him down. He's not having to fight through traffic. At least that's the impression I got. Not a bad football player. He's a very good football player. And frankly, if he was around in the second round, I would jump at that. I see him having, my notes are that he's very decisive. It looks like he goes downhill, good hand-eye coordination. But I couldn't see that guy in the first round. It just, that doesn't fit for me. Devin Lloyd does kind of fit for me. He's one of these do-it-all linebackers. He had 110 tackles, 22 tackles for loss, 8 sacks, and 4 interceptions last year in one season. Now he's playing at Utah. I have not looked at I've not looked at all the competition they played. I was looking at production and the way he plays the game. He was the Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Year. He's a guy who I think seems to be pretty solid against the pass and against the run. He's the kind of guy I could see stepping in and maybe not starting day one, but being a contributor as a rookie. Again, as a late first rounder, I would not have a problem with that. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think either of those guys are around when we pick in the second round, but I figured I'd talk about him a little bit. The guy in the second round that I do kind of like is Chad Mumma out of Wyoming. This is another big guy. He's 6'3" and 240. And what were some of the things that I picked out of there? Yeah, he's played multiple positions. He had played safety. Imagine a safety at that kind of size at 6'4", 240. It sounds like Sean Taylor. But I think he sounds like I've heard him described as the classic 3-down linebacker with athletic ability. He's technically refined. One of these football smarts guy, goes sideline to sideline. He's not a physical freak who's going to make a bunch of highlight plays, but he looks like a solid every down linebacker. And in the second round, I think would be a really solid value. The other second rounder that gets a lot of attention is an Alabama guy, Christian Harris, who blew up late in the championship game. He had been kind of under the radar and not up to expectations. In the championship game, he had 7 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, 3 sacks, and a forced fumble, which got him on everyone's radar. Christian Harris is 6'1", 225. That to me, again, is a bit smallish for, I mean, I favor larger linebackers. I want my guys 6'3", 240 and above to be every down linebackers in the NFL. So I'm not a huge Christian Harris guy. Third round, just 2 guys I'll mention. Damon Clark out of LSU is a guy that came on strong in his senior, or I'm sorry, in 2021. He recorded more than 100 tackles and had 5 sacks, and just his progression was kind of cool. He's only a 2-year starter, but it is at LSU. But it says prior to the 2020, he was named a team captain and given the 18 jersey, which at LSU is the player that shows the highest character on and off the field. Check. 2020, he didn't play that great and got pulled in and out of the lineup. Came back in 2021 and just turned it on, recorded 100 tackles, 5 sacks. So the career arc is going the right way. And the man is 6'2.5", and I've got him at 240. So he kind of fits that mold for me. And I'm going to skip right to the guy that Derek and I were talking about before. Depending on where you see him rated, he's 3rd or 4th round, but his name is Troy Anderson. He's a linebacker out of Montana State, who, depending on who you listen to, is anywhere from a 4th rounder to, if you listen to Kuiper and McShay, we're talking about him as maybe a late 1st, even 2nd rounder. Man ran a 4.440. I have to find the notes because I have to read this one thing on him because you'll want us to draft him too after you hear some of the descriptions. He was called a unicorn in the one thing I was reading. He's potentially
Just
that
tell
guy.
me Tell me he didn't do his own circumcision because I've had enough of that conversation today. I heard NBA.
That is not on any of the notes that I ran across in my studies, John.
Right.
But
He's had a more interesting day than the rest of us, obviously.
So let me just read this to you. Troy Anderson is 6'4", 230, 243 now. Okay. There isn't a more versatile prospect in the country, regardless of position, than Anderson. He's a former Big Sky quarterback who rushed for 1,400 yards and 21 touchdowns in 2018. He was the Big Sky Defensive Player of the Year in 2021 with 147 tackles, 14 tackles for loss. Despite making the jump from FCS at a relatively new position, Anderson has more than shown he belongs with a very strong Senior Bowl performance. And he led the position group with that 4.4240. In an overall class of freak athletes, Troy Anderson might emerge as the unicorn, running a 40 and 440, compiling a 36-inch vert and a 10 broad jump. I mean, the man can sky. He's got hops. What makes him such a standout is his unusual route. And this is what I agree with. As a former quarterback, running back, and fullback turned linebacker, he's clearly unique. He's explosive, physical, and his potential versatility make him a potential top inside linebacker out of this draft. McShay thinks he's a day one starter. So chances are he won't be there in the 4th round like I was hoping we'd sneak him, but he'll probably be there in the 2nd. Don't be disappointed if we pick Troy Anderson in the 2nd. I think that would be a lot of fun. If he's still there at 4, you run to the podium.
Cool.
That's my spiel.
That was my guy. I fell in love with him when I read his story. So
go look at.
I'm happy to hear you talk about him.
I'll be posting his YouTubes, and I think everybody else is going to fall in love with him too.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But we don't draft linebackers, so none of this is going to matter.
No, only in the first round or seventh.
Our linebacker head coach and our linebacker DC don't draft linebackers, right?
They don't.
We
They did one.
We convert safeties.
And we need help, by the way, at that position. So I don't think we're done with free agency. I think we'll be bringing in guys late because we're still woefully undermanned at that position.
And I think it brings in that versatility, Rivera and the team, like the guys that can kind of, because if he runs a 4-4, and if I'm remembering correctly by his tape, I mean, he can cover slot receivers. You know what I mean? Like there was film of him literally covering slot receivers because he's got the lower half of a running back. So change of direction is not a problem. His ability to read a route tree is not a problem. So he's got a unique situation. You just wonder, and it's a legitimate wonder, it's a short period on that side of the ball. You know what I mean? So what's the curve at the NFL speed? That would be my
production was just off the charts. No,
right.
and he's going to be, he would be a work in progress. I mean, he's not going to step in and have that kind of experience right away, but with that kind of athleticism and versatility, it's hard to see him not being an effective player. And apparently he's prepared. He's going to step in as a special teams guy right away too. When you see his athleticism, you'll know why Derek and I are raving about the guy.
Absolutely.
If Landon Collins comes back and doesn't get the deal he's looking for and comes back and signs a deal, do we feel better? Does that impact the draft at all, do you think? Or do we?
I think if you sign Landon Collins, you don't draft Kyle Hamilton.
Yeah, agreed. I don't think it affects whether we draft linebacker or not, but I think it would definitely affect whether we look at a safety.